YouTube. Okay, hello, my name is Brittany Porter. I am an energy coach, or spiritual coach, whatever you want to call me. And today we're talking about the full moon in Gemini. But even if you're watching this in the future and it's not the full moon, that's okay. All of the energy will be encapsulated in this time and space. We're going to be talking about things outside of the full moon, as well as timeline shifting, connecting with your higher self, goal setting, getting ready for this new year. Okay, and this is the year of 2022 right now. All right, so today is a full moon in Gemini, and so it is all about reflection with full moons and releasing things, right? With Gemini, it's about communication and new ideas coming up, right? So we have to really reflect on what are the things that are not working in our lives, because sometimes you got to look at that stuff to know what you do want. And so there are a lot of us right now that are also going through another shift in the Ascension process journey, and we're doing a big collective shift. And so I'll be real honest with you, a couple of days ago, I thought it was just me and that I was just going through my own personal dark night of the soul situation, and we'll talk more about that. But then I started talking to clients, and I was like, oh, this is a collective thing that's happening right now. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's your own personal journey and where you're at in life. And then sometimes it's a huge wave of us that are doing it at the same time. So that's why I wanted to talk about it here too, because everyone I've talked to, they didn't see that it was also a collective shift. They think it's just individuals or their individual self. And that can feel very isolating if you don't know that it's a collective shift happening, because you're like, oh no, my world's just crumbling. Okay? Or you're going through a big tower moment. No, I think a lot are as well, and I think soul activating heightens too. Yep. Making everyone tired. Yes, we're going to talk about Ascension symptoms as well and how to traverse that. So Gemini is also about trying new things. And so all this yucky, icky stuff, okay, this trauma stuff, this heavy emotions, they're coming up because we're at the precipice of this new year, and it's making us do this huge reflecting situation. But it's not even just with things that we want to change. I've been having memories come up, and I'm like, where did that come from? I haven't thought about that in forever, or that person, and it just randomly blips up. And that's because it's a backboard to spring off of. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Angie. Let's see how far we've come from these things that happened in the past. But sometimes when those things come up, and I'm going to try and read the comments as much as I can while I'm talking. Sometimes when those things come up, we feel really guilty and shameful. And we're like, oh, I already dealt with this. Why is this coming up? And then we immediately jump to, oh, I must still need to heal it. No. Sometimes you do. And then sometimes it's just so you can see how far you've come. And so take a pause when those things are coming up and say, is this so I can reflect? Or is it because I need to go deeper with it? Because healing is forever, right? We can always heal things at deeper levels, but there comes a point where we're picking at things that don't need to be picked at, and that's causing trauma. Okay, so just take a pause when it comes up. Interesting, someone showed up in my dream last night that I haven't thought of in years. Yeah, it's just, sometimes it's just a reflection period. That doesn't mean we have to dig into it. Okay, all right. So Mars is also conjunct right now, and so Mars is very much about action, and it can be the anger planet. And so we have to make sure that when we're communicating with others, because Gemini is about communication, we need to be taking a pause and responding instead of reacting. And it's so funny because sometimes I have a son, okay, and sometimes I don't remember that he's also on this spiritual journey and that he's going through the same things, but he's doing it through a kid lens. And so yesterday we were communicating and having difficulties communicating, and both of us were getting really irritated and agitated with one another. And he was like, my stomach hurts. Right? Yeah, I was getting real called out yesterday. He was like, my stomach hurts. And I had to say, you know what? My stomach hurt 2 days ago because of this Ascension stuff. But I wasn't seeing him doing the same Ascension process, right? And also Mars affecting him. and this Gemini energy and the full moon energy. So sometimes we need to be like, okay, our kids and other people in our life are also going through this. Even if they're not like on the same wavelength. Does that make sense? You're just more like in tune and aware of what's happening. But you gotta like hold compassion, and that's what I needed to do, was hold compassion, because they don't always understand what's going on. They're just feeling it, and you know what's up. They don't. Okay, and not to say like excuse people's behavior for being like wild behavior, right? But like just that compassionate eye. Also, releasing from solar plexus gives belly aches. Yeah, he was going through it yesterday, and I was like, oh, you're probably having Ascension symptoms. So as these things are coming up, like these reflectory periods, it's also a time to see what's going on in our reality with relationships, whether that's like with your career, with your friends, whomever, right? Mom and dad. And so as we're going to the new year, it's like, what are we taking with us and what are we leaving? He is feeling better. Thank you for asking, Carrie. He is. Well, now his finger's messed up, but anyway, it's fine. Okay, so what are we going to take with us and what are we going to leave behind in this year? And so that means a whole bunch of stuff is going to come up here in our reality and say, what do you think about this? What's going on, right? And we have to check our self-limiting beliefs and our behavioral patterns and our triggers. We have to check everything right now. And so sometimes it can be very overwhelming when all this stuff is coming up, because you're like, dang, I thought I was doing so good. Okay, just because it's coming up doesn't mean it's bad and you're doing something wrong or you're not doing enough. It's actually coming up so that you can launch into a better new year. What do I not want to take with me? Maybe you have like a friend who that's not a really good energy exchange, or you know, it's just not time to move forward with them, and all this conflict and confrontation is happening right now. That's so you can leave that in the past year and move forward with new fresh energy and new space for newness. But sometimes we take that as the universe is punishing me. Okay, and I get that because that's me too. Like I've been going through the same exact thing. But it's just coming up to reflect what we want to take with and what we want to leave behind. So Ascension symptoms, and if y'all want to share some in the chat, I would love to read them. I was feeling nauseous. Like I literally felt like I was going to throw up and puke everywhere. And I got like really woozy and lightheaded, but it goes like beyond that too. Like you get exhausted, but then reality starts to look really weird. Like things aren't clicking in like they normally do. And you're like, whoa, okay, everything is not rolling like it normally does. Work feels weird, relationships feel weird. It's because you are shifting into this new frequency, and sometimes your body has not caught up with that new frequency, because we are very, like, our body is dense, okay, and the frequency that we're trying to get to up here is way higher, and so it takes your body a second to get there and acclimate. It's kind of like if you're climbing up a mountain. It's going to be very exhausting and overwhelming and take you out of breath, but then you eventually acclimate to it. It's kind of the same thing, right? Headaches. Hey, Ashley. Headaches. Feeling irritated. That's another thing, because your reality is off and it makes you feel off. And then if you have wounded inner children, I mean, all of us have some, but if you have children that safety and security has been something that you've been healing with them and helping them feel safe and secure, when your timeline shifting, it makes them feel shaky, like the foundation shaky, because they're like, whoa, what's going on here? What are we doing? Why is everything not kind of like resonating like it was before, right? Okay, very dizzy. Yeah, you can have no appetite, or you can have like way more of an appetite. Like I've been eating like way more than I normally do, because I'm trying to stay grounded in my body, right? Because sometimes that happens. You can have like wild dreams, just feeling fatigued, you know what I mean? All of that's normal. Now, I'm not saying if you're sick, there's a lot of people that have like the flu and stuff going on too, so you need to like, it's a different feeling with Ascension symptoms. It's not like you have a sinus infection, it's not like a flu, it's just like this weird something is off. Something is off with me, and something is kind of like off with my reality, and that's because you have one foot in the old door of your consciousness level and your perceptual lenses of how you see things and experience things and interact with people. When we go through these shifts, those lenses come off for a new set of lenses. And it's just like that mountain acclimation. You have to get ready for those new lenses. Like, okay, yesterday, hey Jenny, yesterday I was eating some food in my kitchen, and my higher self came in and said, hey, have you ever noticed that we have this like behavioral pattern that we get into? And it had to do with like my finances. And I had literally never thought about how this thing was correlated before, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it was a huge like perceptual shift, and it made me be like, what have I been doing? Okay, and I was just sitting in my kitchen, I was just like, oh my God. And then I started like questioning everything again, right? Because now I have new lenses on. I'm not coming from that behavioral pattern anymore. But it took me months to work through that, and then like in a split second, it's gone. But it's still scary having that new lens on, because now you're looking at everything differently. And you're looking at like how you interact with people differently, and you're looking at how you're making decisions and how much time and effort you're putting into things. And it's just very shocking sometimes to like shift your perception that quickly. It's like, whoa. And then you start feeling guilty and shameful over the behavioral pattern or trigger that you've been doing. And then that kind of drags your frequency down. Okay. Let me read some of these comments here. I appreciate your knowledge and communication skills so much. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Agree. I've been questioning buying so many crystals. We'll talk about some grounding practices as well. It's so crazy how everything has been aligning lately, and now I understand. Yeah, sometimes that's why we have to listen to our intuition and our higher self too, because we don't always understand like in the moment why things are happening, but then it always comes back around later. Like even with me, with that money mindset thing that I just worked through, I see why I had to do that so that I can help other people with it. Because that's what I do for work, but that's not applies to everybody. But sometimes it does. Like if you're an energy healer, that's the crux of things sometimes, is that you are the leader, so you have to go first. And so you are the one that are going through these like very intense shifts before the collective does, so that you can jump ahead of it, but it makes you feel very isolated and like you're the only one going through it. And so that's why I wanted to come on here and be like, nah, it's a lot of us, and now we can all see all of us in here that are doing this right now. Okay, so Ascension symptoms, emotional processing. Because it's a full moon, and full moons are already like wild energy, okay? And Gemini energy is also like, not necessarily like emotional, but it just brings up a lot of stuff to the surface that's not working. Like it's all about dichotomy and like perspectives and like weighing things against one another almost. So I have been having wild, just out of the blue, just in the most emotional pain, like just dragged, like crying my eyes out for just like nothing happening, just coming out. And then intense bouts of anger and frustration and feeling lost and like, what the heck is going on? That's because we, as a collective, are going to have these DNA upgrades that are coming online in the year of 2023 that I was talking to my higher self about, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But we have to clear out a lot of this like stuck and stagnant energy that has been kind of like pent up and built up in this year, so that we can start fresh and clean in the new year. Okay, clean. So we have to purge. So all of those ascension symptoms that you're going through is purging all of that trauma energy out of your body. That's why you feel tired. That's why you feel like you're going to throw up. That's why you feel discombobulated. It's just making new space, but you have to feel it. If you don't feel it and you push it down and suppress it, you'll take that into the next year. And I'm not saying you like rid yourself of everything, but the more you like lean into it and understand that this is clearing out so I can get to the next level and the next stage, and then help other people with it if that's your modus operandi, okay? But it's making you space inside of yourself. But it's not just you. There's like, all of us are doing this right now. We are about to make a huge shift in reality, okay? I totally get it. I'm super angry over pizza. Yeah, it'd just be silly things that are just like making us upset. So I went to, and I just want to share a personal experience because it might be relatable. So I went to, I need a day off. I was like, I've been working. I have to take a day off and go ground into Mother Nature. So took a day off, went to this botanical gardens place. So lovely. I just felt my soul was just like renewed and rejuvenated. Okay, and I tapped back into my magic. And on the way home, there's this beautiful sunrise or sunset. It's magical. And then I start feeling so incredibly depressed and sad and anxious and frustrated and just lost in life. And I was like, no, don't do that, because this is supposed to be a fun day. This is my day off. Please don't do that. And then I started feeling guilty because I'm like, why can't I just be happy? Okay. Yes, weird mood swings, right? And I'm making some big shifts in my life, as a lot of us are, and in my career. And I realized that I have been suppressing a lot of my emotions. I have been telling myself we just need to keep pushing, and it'll work itself out. But that's a lot of like divine masculine energy that we're pulling away from. It's like, we'll just keep going, and it'll work out. And it's very dense to live life that way, because it's a lot of hustle grind energy that takes a lot of your personal energy. And so my higher self was like, we can either feel these feelings or you're going to take it with you in the new year. Like, you're purging this right now. Like, this is not you. This is not your life. This is not what is going to be forever. This is you purging this stuff up out of your body. And if you don't feel it, then you'll just keep it with you, and you'll do the same exact behavioral patterns and triggers over again. And I was like, you know what? All right. And so I'm just like crying, and I was like so angry, and I was just like letting it like come up and go through. And then after I got done with it, I felt so much better. Felt a million times better. Those emotions that you're not processing are clouding your judgment. They are clouding your clarity, your ability of clarity. They're clouding you seeing more positive timelines out there for you. Because they're just like building, and it creates like this fog over your perceptual abilities. After I got done with that and that purging moment, I was like, okay, this is not my life forever, and this is not even me. This is just like stuff that I need to get out. And now I feel refreshed, and I feel so much better. And I'm not saying that you won't have like a whole sad day or a whole sad couple days, but I've also been on the other end of the stick where I've suppressed my emotions for so incredibly long, and then had horrible anxiety disorder. I had depression, like intense depression. I had an eating disorder and body dysmorphia and like all this stuff. And I'm not saying emotions is the only reason for that, because there's a lot of other things. But a lot of that was because I was constantly like sweeping, feeling my emotions under the rug. And so what happens to them? They just build inside of your body and then become those things sometimes. And so with this stuff coming up and us going through the ascension process, asking ourselves, is this who I am, or is this stuff coming up to come out? that question to yourself can help you with that judgment call. This is not my permanent state. This is stuff getting ready for me to go to the next level. Because you are probably not the same person that you were 10, 15, 20 years ago, and you have a better toolkit now. Like, all of us in here are on a self-awareness journey, always going in, sometimes too much, okay? You're not going to necessarily succumb to those emotions the same way you would 10 years ago. We can kind of feel them and look at them objectively and still feel them, but not attach to them and become them. Like, you are not your emotions. You're channeling things. Like, you're channeling anger. You're channeling sadness. You're channeling happiness. Okay? You're also channeling right now the collective emotions. That's why I want to do this chat, because we can see where all of us are channeling these things to purge them out of the collective consciousness. Okay, it's not just individuals, it's us shifting reality right now. And so there are so many unawake people on the planet, okay, and part of the light workers journey is helping transmute the global consciousness. And so sometimes when you get those really heavy feelings out of nowhere, it's you doing your light working work. It's you helping purge stuff. Because if we, individually, us in here, are purging those things within us, now we're showing up in the world differently. We are responding to people differently. We are breaking generational trauma. Like, we are setting the next generation up to not have to go through those things. And so we are really like shifting reality right now. Okay, you on your individual journey are shifting the world. That's why it's important, like, to understand that it's not always just like you, it's the collective too. We're all tapped into one another. Okay, and not just in our own little reality bubbles, like, we're also connected to the global psychic grid. Okay, so let's see, let me see if there's anything here. Oh, bye Shayna. That's another thing too, like when you get like an intense wave of something, is to sit and ask yourself, is this me, or is this something that's not mine? Is this coming from the collective grid? Okay. New year, new upgrades. This is a fun one. So all of this purging, I was talking to my higher self and like guides earlier yesterday, and they were talking about how all of us are doing this huge purge out, clear out, which we can see collectively too. Like, there are so many negative things that are happening in the world right now, and I don't want to like pigeonhole in those, but there's a lot of negative things that are crumbling and happening to make way for the new. Like, somebody said one time, there's so much darkness on the planet right now because there's so much light shining on it. And so sometimes we get caught up in the, because we feel the collective grid, we get caught up in like, the world is like so shitty right now. If we take a different perspective on it and we say like, oh, the world is rapidly changing and crumbling so fast because we're actively building something that's new and putting something better in that place, right? And us being here doing this type of work together, or like finding our tribes and our groups and building strength with one another, we're setting the new thing in place. But if you don't know that other people are going through this, or you're not seeing it all the time, hey Sarah, you think it's just you and you think the world is like that. But like here we see this is a group thing that's happening. Like, because of what I do for work, right? Like energy healing and connecting with other light workers all the time, I, from my perspective, see how everything is connected. I see like, oh, there's actually so many people that are going through this right now, and I'm like talking to them about it and helping them through it. Sometimes light workers don't see that though. Like, you're in your reality bubble and like, you're like, I'm the only one that's experiencing this right now. That's why it's really, really, really important to find groups of other light workers to reflect back your reality off of, so that you can see like, oh, it's not just me. Okay, because that takes so much pressure off. And then you feel seen and heard and validated, and then we get in these collective groups and we start saying, okay, well, how can we help? How can we help? How can we better support one another? Right? So whether that's like Facebook groups, or like y'all can join my Discord if you want. It's in my bio. I'd love to have you there. There's a lot of awesome people from there in here too right now. But find you some groups wherever that is, or maybe it's in your local city. Just find some other people that are going through these ascension process journeys as well. New upgrades. So a lot of people are coming online with their gifts right now, and it can be very shocking if you haven't experienced that before, of like receiving downloads, hearing things, seeing things, okay, interacting with the energy field differently, the Akasha fields, like just a lot of different perspective lenses are being changed out right now for us to see into different dimensions and frequencies, like Reiki and light language and all of these, like quantum healing, like it's becoming so more popular. Like when I first started on my journey and I was talking about Akashic records like 3 years ago, people were like, what is that? And now like everybody I talk to, like they know what the Akashic records are, which is wild to me. Because when I first started, it was like nobody knew what it was, and I was having to like explain like so much about them, and now just people just know what that is. We are rapidly accelerating, not only on like a collective level, but also on a individual level. And I made a video about this, and I'm going to say this is my opinion, okay? A lot of people are having negative things about social media, especially like TikTok, and saying like, you know, they're, you know, just like all this stuff. What I think about it is TikTok is part of the ascension process journey. Like TikTok has connected so many light workers together extremely rapidly. Like TikTok is the one app that I see like so many people going live and talking about like these wild esoteric concepts and like pushing the boundaries and creating spaces for people to find one another, especially like in lives. Like it is like whoop. Okay. Internet is energy. Yeah, I love that. Yes. It's we're creating like a hive here. Okay. And we're finding one another, because persecution is like a huge fear in the collective, especially with like boundary pushing gifts like light language. Like I'm gonna tell y'all, I made my first verbal light language video this morning, and let me tell you, there were a lot of self-limiting beliefs that came up with that, and I had to like keep going back in and talking to like my past version of my fairy self, and like keep talking to her like to push me to do it, because I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, because I have this deep internal fear of persecution. Even me, who does things like quantum healing and light language, like with my hands and stuff, like it's just in there very, not just like with me, but just like generationally deep in there, and like past lives, you know, like burn the witches type of energy stuff. And so a lot of us are not opening to our gifts, even though we want to. Okay, we want to, but there's that fear. Okay, even with me. And I was like, I gotta do it. Today's the day. Today is the day. Sometimes it's you gotta do it right now. Okay, and that's what I mean by some of us energy healers like are on the forefront of that, of like, we have to go first to show people it is okay. You have to be the leader. So a lot of us are about to get these wild upgrades. Like I'm talking about reality shifting upgrades, where you're seeing things and hearing things and perceiving into different dimensions, and different types of energy healing coming in, like past Reiki, past quantum healing, like other stuff from other dimensional places and spaces, and finding out more about our starseed lineages and connecting with different beings and things like that. Like I've been seeing it like slowly like roll in, but as of late it's been like really picking up. like very, very much so, with a lot of different people, but there's still that fear underneath, and that's what keeps us from moving forward in those areas. So what I would suggest that has helped me, sometimes subconscious work, like mindset psychology, like y'all know I'm like very big on that. That's very beneficial. But sometimes we need that energy frequency quantum healing level to help shift our crystalline body, our light body. We need that level. So if anybody in here right now, or if you in the future are watching this, I have some videos. They're not my videos. I should probably make one. But there are some videos that I have watched that have like really, really, really helped me on my journey, and therefore clearing out persecution imprints, not only in this incarnation, but like very deep soul level persecution clear out healings. Most of them are like light language. Even if you don't understand light language, you don't have to. Your soul knows what to do with it, right? If anybody wants those videos, you can message me on my Instagram and I'll send them to you. Message me with your email because I want to send it, because there are a lot of links. Okay, my Instagram is soulharmonymagic, just like here, and just type me up a message and say, hey, you said something about the persecution videos, and I will send them to you. But they're very beneficial because there's so much work that we can do with the subconscious, but like you really need to work on like your light body and like on an Akashic record level as well. And even if you don't understand how to like do that on your own, listening to these videos is a great way to like get in the door, right? Okay. Yes, I'm planning to do this. Okay. Sunny, yes, I do one-on-one sessions. If anybody wants to work together, all the different ways that we can are in my link tree in my bio. I do a bunch of different things. They're all up there. Okay, so this is where things get a little wonky, okay? When we are changing out our perception lenses and we are raising new consciousness levels within ourselves and the collective, the positive Rose, you can message me here. I'm gonna follow you. Okay, I just followed you, so you can follow me back, and then you can send me a direct message here. So just send me your email in a message. So when we are going to these new consciousness levels, these new wavelengths, these new perceptual abilities, these new gifts, things that aren't aligned with us start popping up out everywhere. This is friends, family, career, like hobbies that you used to like, things that you used to enjoy, ways that you used to do things. Everything is going a certain way, and then everything stops working. And then it feels like your world is like crumbling out underneath you, and that you're doing something wrong, and that you've messed up somewhere. Okay? Yes, it's very scary while you're going through it, because especially if you have like inner children inside that have dealt with safety and security issues, like you never felt safe as a child, or maybe you've experienced like SA in your life, or like physical abuse, or you know, whatever, and you just haven't felt safe in your body. That's also another reason we don't process emotions. But your inner children freak out during timeline shifting. Like I have had it happen to me, because they're like, oh my God, what's happening? What are we doing? We just built this life around us that we love so much, and now everything's not working, and our friends, we're not resonating with them anymore, and like family's not understanding what we're saying, and this job that I liked isn't really doing it for me anymore. Hey Jess. And so it makes you feel like the tower moment, right? It's crumbling, and then you start going through a dark night of the soul. Sometimes dark night of the souls, like people think there's just one. Okay, it happens numerous times, and at numerous lengths, and at numerous levels of intensity. You're gonna go through whatever you need to do to purge all this stuff out that's not, oh, thank you for those little lights, those are so cute, thank you. Thank you, Kelly. You're gonna do whatever you need to do to purge that stuff out, and sometimes it's really intense, but then on the other side of it, it's so much better. Like I had this one dark night of the soul that like I didn't think I was gonna make it through it. It was so rough. Like it was so like so rough, and I've talked about it before, like my experience, and on the other side of it now, sitting where I'm at, I'm like, okay, I now see why all of that stuff had to happen to get me to who I am and what I'm doing right now. But boy, let me tell you, during it, it was just, it was awful. Awful, awful, awful. That's why it's so important to find other people like ourselves to bounce your reality off of, because it makes you feel very lonely and isolated, especially when you don't have awake family or friends, because they don't get it. They don't understand. And that's not a judgment thing. They're just not on the same wavelength. They don't understand what's happening in here. We do. I get it. You get it. Okay. But like, when I was going through that first dark night of the soul, and a couple after that, people would look at me and be like, what are you doing? Why are you making these wild decisions? Why are you leaving things and people and doing all this stuff? Because on the outside, it looked fine. Nobody understands your vision. Oh, thank you for that. For those flowers. If y'all are watching this on YouTube, they're sending me like gifts on the screen. People don't think you should. People don't see your vision. Like, I have left very good jobs and like that pay, you know, very well, and like had cushy like setup, and I just left, and people are like, what the heck are you doing? And I'm like, you don't understand what's going on in here. You don't see my vision and what I need to do to get there. And maybe it doesn't make sense to you. You don't see where I'm headed. I was talking to somebody the other day about they want to be a full-time energy healer, and maybe this resonates with some people. They want to be a full-time energy healer. Oh, thank you. Want to be a full-time energy healer, and they're in this job that they hate. It's so awful, and it's draining them, and it's exhausting, and it's just the worst, right? And it's kind of like a prestigious job that they have. And I said, what's stopping you from just going to get a part-time job somewhere, right? Or 2 part-time jobs, like whatever, right? What you need to do for your finances. And then working on your business, you know, like in between until you get there full-time. Because that's what I did. I left like this very, very, very good job, owned a business, and then did a whole bunch of other things in between. And from somebody on the outside, it's like, why would you do that when you had like this whole setup? Because I needed a break. I needed to be able to go to a job and not worry about helping anyone and get myself straight emotionally and mentally and physically and spiritually. And to do that, I had to leave that very like good job I have, that business that I owned, to get myself right. And from the outside perspective, somebody would be like, wow, that was a dumb decision. For me, I had to do that as my stepping stones. And sometimes our ego gets the best of us and says like, oh, you're too good to go do that, and you're too good to go to this. And it's not a judgment thing, because I've been there too, right? Like, owning a business for me, and then going to be a bar manager, to my egoic mind at that time, was me taking a hit. And me saying like, I've done all this and like built myself up here, and now I'm down here. Or me becoming like I went to go work for a nonprofit and became a teacher, and I was making like way less than I had been previously. But I had to do that to take a break and work on my business. Because if I'm still pouring energy and life into something that doesn't work for me anymore, I have no energy and time for the things that I want. Okay, so somebody on the outside, and that's where people pleasing gets the best of us, of like, they don't get it. You have to do what's best for you, because only you understand you. Maybe you do have to go get a waitressing job while you're becoming an energy healer and doing it full time. To somebody else, that looks silly. To you, it's like, nah, I'm gonna get my bag, and I'm gonna own this awesome business, and I'm gonna help 1,000 people, and I'm going to do this and that and that and that. You have to stay on your own compass. Okay? Okay, it reminds me of a conversation we had a few months ago about my higher self chose to hermit and heal. Yeah, that's another thing too. Like, sometimes people are like, why are you not hanging out with us? You know, all this stuff. you only know you. Like, if you need to be at home and be an emotional mess so you can heal and be away from people and not be out partying, like, that was a big one for me. Like, I used to be a partier, okay? I used to, like, party. And then all of a sudden I stopped doing it, and people were like, think that I didn't like them. They were like, why don't you want to hang out with us? And I'm like, I got to be by myself. I got to get it together. Okay, so you got to stay on your own journey and your own path and what's best for you. Because people will be there for you. Like, there was a year of my life where I didn't have anybody in my life but my son. Like, the whole universe took my job and took my friends and took my family, and just like, I was just by myself. On the other side of that, I learned radical self-love. I stopped people-pleasing. I worked on my self-confidence and my self-esteem. I figured out what I really wanted in life, where I wanted to go. I like refound my passions. I stopped masking. And so on the other side of that, I had a whole different life. But it was like going through that first. And that's where a lot of us are at right now, is going through to get to the other side. Okay, but these gifts, that persecution thing also goes with, well, what are people going to say about me? And that's where we get tripped up of like trying to hold up other people's expectations of us and the narratives they have of us. You got to really go inside and say, what is it that I want? And I'm going to stay on that path, because they are not living my life. Don't let somebody tell you, like, this is mom energy coming in right now. Okay. Don't let somebody tell you what you need to be doing with your life unless they're living a life, like the same life that you're trying to get to. Like, don't, oh, thank you, Carrie, I appreciate that. If somebody is struggling in their life, and no judgment, like, we always be struggling sometimes, but if somebody's giving you a piece of advice and they're not living the life that you want, don't take advice from them. If they cannot process their emotions, don't let them tell you how you should feel. If they're in a job that they hate, don't let them speak advice over what you should be doing about your job. If they're not spiritually right, okay, and they're not deep diving in with self, don't let them tell you how to try and live your life. Like, only take advice from people that are where you want to be. Okay, because otherwise they're just dragging you down. And like, I'm not trying to say that judgmentally, because I've been there too, but like, don't take advice from people like that. Like, I have done that in my life and taken advice from people like, well, what do you think? And what do you think? And what do you think? When they're not even doing what I want to do. Like, why would you take advice from people like that? Find you some mentors, some guides. You don't even have to pay them, okay? You can find YouTube mentors. Like, there was a time in my life where, like, I was really going through it, but I couldn't afford to, you know, pay a life coach, and I couldn't afford to, you know, pay a spiritual guide or whatever, and that's fine if that's where you're at in life. You can do it. Find some mentors to look up to. Like, for me, like, I love Tony Robbins, Victor Odo, like Lori Ladd, like all of the Christina Lopes. There's all these people on YouTube or TikTok or wherever that you can still look up to, right, while you're on your journey. You're one of my TikTok mentors. Oh, you're so sweet. Wayne Dyer, he's great. Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. Like, when people say find you some mentors, it is great if you can find a mentor to work with. That's great. But you can also find people to look up to, and those also be your mentors. Like, I've been on that journey. I did that. Like, that's why when I talk to people about, hey, here are resources, I always give resources to those people that helped me, right? Like, anytime I send anybody a resource, I don't send people resources that I haven't watched myself and have helped me on my journey. But that's a way for me to give back too, is like, hey, here's a mentor, like, go check them out. Okay. Your advice has been amazing. Oh, thank you, and thank you. Wow, I randomly clicked on here. Thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. We're going to go a little bit over time here, but it's okay. All right, so we're going to talk about our higher self really quick. So to me, higher self is, let me draw a picture, because I think that would help. because we're going to talk about how to do this timeline shifting into our new life. Okay. All right. So let's do... All right. Excuse my handwriting. Okay. So this is you. Actually, I need to... No, let's say this is you right here. This is where you're at. Okay, so we're going up the mountain of life. This is the end of life. This is like your final higher self. You at the end, okay? So this is you in time and space right now. So many squirrels in my life. So this is you. These are your younger selves. This is when you were born down here at the beginning of the mountain. I know this is getting a little silly, but okay. This is you at the bottom of the mountain when you were born. This is where we're at. These are all the experiences you've had thus far. So the mountain, you're in the trees. You're like in the scape. You're like in the woods. You're in the creeks. You're in the valleys, right? You can't see the top of the mountain. That's why we can't see like what's going to happen, right? But who can see is your next higher self. There are many different higher self versions. So this higher self is always talking to you and saying like, hey, maybe you should do this. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe, you know, maybe we need to go this way. And you have free will, whether you listen to them or not. That's fine. And if you don't, or even if you do, it shifts your timelines and it starts looking different. The mountain looks different, right? But you're always going up. So when we shift timelines and we shift who we are and we shift into a new person, then you become this next higher self. And there's a younger version of you down here. And you just keep doing that. You just keep going up, okay? So when we heal our younger selves, like y'all know I preach about some inner child healing, okay? When you heal this inner child right here that is dealing with self-worth and confidence and self-esteem issues, you heal them, and then that pushes you into a new higher self because you cleared all that trauma. And so you naturally become a new higher self version of yourself because you have new perspectives, you let go of behavioral patterns, you let go of triggers, right? So when we are trying to shift to a new higher self, like we want a new life, it's very ambiguous. Like, what does that even mean? What does that look like? Like, some of us have like these really big goals of like, I want to be a millionaire, but we're not making $5,000 a month now. And it'll swing back around, but or we want to own a business, like an energy healing business, but we're not even hosting classes right now. Or we want to be traveling all over the world, but we haven't been out of our state yet on like a day drive, or we're not putting money in the bank in like a savings, like $1. So like there's this huge frequency jump here, and sometimes that jump is too big. But what we can do is frequency jump to this next version. Now it's more, Mr. Pugs, listen, you're going to have to wait a minute because I'm still talking. It's lunchtime for my dogs and they're like, we need to eat. Okay. So what we can do though is work towards this new higher self instead of like this big old thing up here. Okay. And then it becomes more tangible. It's very, so our higher self is our future self. Yes. So I'm going to explain that more in depth too. Mr. Pugs, stop. You're doing the most right now. Okay. Sorry, he just hit this tambourine over here. So your higher self is always your future self. It's always like the next version of you, right? So if we say, I want to be a millionaire, there's a gajillion steps in that. Like way, 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 way too much. And then your brain gets overwhelmed and overloaded. And you're like, well, I'm not going to do anything about that because I don't know how. Okay, we need to scale it back. We need to bring it back down here to a manageable spot. So for this example, who do we want to be in a year? 1 year. Because when I ask like clients, what do you want in your life? They'll tell me like these big goals. And then I'll say, okay, well, what are we doing in a year? And they'll be like, I don't know. It's too big of a frequency jump. And we're not taking the first steps. We're looking way too far down. And I'm not saying big goals aren't great, because they are, and they give you something to work towards. But if you don't have things that you're working towards in between, you will not obtain those bigger ones. because the way that manifesting works too is you have to take action steps alongside receiving, right? So let's say we want to be a millionaire. Maybe where we start now is having better like money mindset, and we can do that by learning more about how to do our taxes, or starting a savings account, or learning some new like money management skills. We can do that on YouTube. Right? We have to think about what are those steps in there. So like I'll give some examples. Okay, so maybe next year we want to travel to Peru. Maybe next year we want to have a new job. Maybe next year we want to make $10,000 a month. Those are things that you can work on now towards those bigger ones. Like, let's say you want to be an energy healer and we're not doing that, okay, yet. We're not doing that yet. Maybe we work on building a website right now. Maybe we work on learning some new energy healing modalities. Maybe we hold like our first class. Maybe with that $10,000 a month, we learn a new skill. We learn a new trade. Maybe we want better health in the next year. Maybe we start eating healthier 1 day a week. We have to break these goals down further, like way further. What can I do today? Even if it's only for 10 minutes, what can I do today? That is a great question to always ask yourself every single day. So that's where I'm at, but I decided, let me read some of these. Do you recommend breaking down small and big goals, short and yes. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's write down some. So let's say I want to be a millionaire. That's a great goal to have. I love that for everybody, and I wish that upon everyone. Okay, because the light workers need the money to be able to help more people. Okay, money can be a wonderful thing. So if your big goal is $1 million, where do I want to be at in a year? And $1 million in a year might be too big of a frequency jump for you. You might need to bring it back and say, well, how can I make $5,000 a year? And I know that can feel defeating to some people, but if you can make $5,000, it gets it easier to get to that goal. Okay? Yes, if I had $1 million, what can I do to get to that space? And that's from where we can get in a year. Much easier. And the thing about time is not linear. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to take me 20 years. How do you know that? You don't know. We could get into our soul alignment and soul purpose and meet new people and get like funding for something, or somebody, you know, we get an inheritance along the way, or, you know, whatever. There could be a million different things. But if you're not taking action steps now from where you're at in space and time, you're not making room for the universe to bring you those things. Or like if you want to be a full-time energy healer, you're not showing up on social media or holding classes or workshops or working on your confidence and self-esteem and what you can do now, you're not making room for the universe to get you there. You have to take action steps, and your bigger goals can change and shift. Like I've had, like I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, and so I was going to school for psychology, right? And then when it came time to decide whether I'm going to go to a master's program, I was like, ooh, I don't think I want to do that because I'm not a 9-to-5 person and I don't want to be working in an office. Okay? So I had to leave flexibility for the universe to shift, but I was still taking action steps towards helping people. Does that make sense? And so it was an easy shift over there because I was already on that track. Just like with you, we need to find like 5 goals to work on for the next year. And if we're still not sure what those goals are, we can ask ourselves. So we have 4 energy bodies. We have our physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. Let's start with 4. What is a goal that I want for my physical body? What is a goal that I want for my emotional body? Find 5 things that push you. You cannot pick goals that don't make you grow, okay, that you already know how to do. Maybe you want to be a professional dancer. This is one. We want to be a professional dancer. okay? Maybe we don't have money to go to classes right now. This is where we scale it back. It's like, well, I don't have money to go to okay, do you have YouTube? Do you have a television? Do you have a phone? You can practice in your home and like practice dance videos, and you can do it for 10 minutes a day. You can literally change your life if you do things in 10-minute increments every day, because then it starts building momentum, and the universe is like, oh, they do really enjoy this, and they are putting in the work, and they are doing what they can from where they're at. So let me like bring them somebody who is a professional that they can do an exchange with, or maybe they can volunteer at the dance studio, or maybe they have a friend they didn't know who was really into dancing that could teach them. Like, you never know like what the universe is going to rearrange for you to get there. But we just get caught up in the how am I gonna make this happen? Right? And we get so defeated, and then we just succumb to that, and then the dream never happens. I have literally changed my whole entire life. Like, I really just like really want people to hear this, okay? I have literally changed my life by every single day saying, these are my goals. Are the behavioral patterns and are the behavioral patterns and the thoughts that I'm having in alignment with this higher self that I am trying to become? What can I do today for 10 minutes? Because sometimes you got kids, sometimes you got a partner, sometimes you're taking care of a parent. I get it. It's life and it's busy, but you have 10 minutes. Like, you literally have 10 minutes. Like, when I was building my website, that caused me so much stress and anxiety, because I didn't have like a very good marketing skill set. I didn't know how to do it. It was very overwhelming, and I didn't have the money to pay somebody. But you know what I did have? 10 minutes a day to watch YouTube videos and then figure it out. And eventually I did. And I built it myself. But it was me crying like day after day, saying like, oh my God, this is so difficult. This is so hard. I don't get it. And I had to repetitively keep working on it every single day. And then eventually it was done. And I was like, wow, I was overreacting. But it usually happens like that. You can teach yourself most anything. It's just like, how much time and energy do you want to put into it, and how committed to it are you? And maybe it does take you 157 YouTube videos to figure out, but you can. But it starts with you like doing it. Right? I do think it's so hard but so easy at the same time. It's confusing. Sometimes it is. It's why you have to sometimes like hear things like the same subject matter from different perspectives, from different people. Sometimes you need to reach out to somebody who's already doing it to get advice. But we need smaller goals to work on while we're working on those bigger ones, because forward movement is forward movement. It doesn't matter how big the movement is. If you're moving forward, you're moving forward. And once that ball starts rolling, that 10 minutes becomes, this is my new life. Like, I remember a time when I was a bar manager and I really wanted to be a coach, and I was like so angry at the universe, because I was like, you're telling me you want me to, help people with their, ascension journey and like all this stuff, but you're not making space for me to do that. That was a perspective shift that I needed. I said, you know what? I'm going to teach people, or I'm going to act like all of these people that come in are my clients, my future clients. And I'm just going to go ahead and start calling myself a life coach. And I'm going to spend all of my time and energy, my free time, figuring out how to do it. Now, I'm a single mom. I was working full time. And at one point I was working like 2 jobs. Okay, and taking care of my son. But I had 10 minutes. I had 10 minutes every single day. And now I do it full time. Like, this is my life. Like, I literally just get on TikTok and like talk on lives and like do clientele work, and like I'm a full-time coach. But there was a time where I only had 10 minutes a day to work on it. But I made that commitment to myself. I will do it every single day. I will. And I did. And now I'm here. But not just with that. There's like a million other things that like I've done for that, right? Weren't you helping people by listening to them? Oh yeah, I was still helping people like in that bar, but that was my perspective shift. That was me looking at the negatives and like the universe was punishing me because it hadn't made space. It was me creating that like hole that I was in. I had to have a perspective shift, right? That's what I was saying too, like with us emotionally processing, sometimes we see it as like, okay, the universe is punishing me by making me have conflicts with all these people and like things not being on the same wavelengths and these tower moments. No, it's actually creating space, and it's actually about your perspective about it. Because when you shift your perspective, you can really shift your life. And so find you some goals to work on in this upcoming year. Obtainable goals. And even if you don't meet them, we can't feel guilty for that. Like I had in a year, I want to be working full-time as a coach. Did that happen in the first year? No, it didn't. Okay, but I was still making forward movement and forward progress because I had that goal to work towards. Or maybe it's you making $5,000 a month. Maybe it's you having better communication with your kids. Like that's one too, that you can constantly work on by watching like YouTube videos about your communication skills, or how to parent differently, or how to heal your inner child. Like it doesn't have to be tangible goals. Sorry, someone keeps calling me. It doesn't have to be tangible goals outside of yourself. It can be, I want to be better at my confidence and communication a year from now. I want to be able to express myself more. Like just find certain goals that you want to accomplish within this year and that are also in alignment with those bigger goals up here. Okay, we're just breaking them down further. When you say, this is who I'm going to be a year from now, now we have personified our higher self. We know what we look like. We're like, this Brittany that I'm working towards is doing that. So how is what I'm doing now in alignment with her? So like if I'm having a lot of, like let's say like a year from now, I want to be making $100,000. But I'm still having thoughts and doing behavioral patterns and things of that nature that are not in alignment with her, I'm not going to be able to shift into her. So I have to really think, what would Brittany a year from now be doing and saying and acting and participating in? And what type of relationships does she have? Moving into her frequency. So when you break it down to like yearly goals, now we can like start to envision ourselves a little bit easier than like 15 years down the road, right? It gives you like a pinpoint for your energy. Okay. Beautifully explained. Okay, good. Because your inner children, like without even, some people don't even like realize this, your inner children were doing the same thing with you in the future, who you are now. Like there was a time when I was 12 when I told my grandparents like, I want to help people and I want to own a business and I want to be more confident. Like that's, well, the confident thing was more like me saying that internally, but I want to be more confident and I want to be good at public speaking and I want to have like friends who like I really, you know, love and all this stuff. I, at my 12-year-old self, was picking up on the Brittany who I am right now. Like I could visualize and see her. And I was like, I'm going to do everything I need to do to get to her. And now I'm her. And now there's another version of me out there that I'm also working towards. Right? So like we're constantly picking up on these higher self versions. And the more that you can personify them through these goals, it's easier to shift into them. Like, when I was making content, I was like, and I had less than 1,000 followers. I was like, I would love to do lives. And that was a goal that I could work on. And that was right in tandem with like who I am now, because it helped me work on my leadership skills. It helped me work on my communication skills. It comes with a whole assortment of things, but you got to have smaller, tangible goals to work towards along the way. Okay. All right. So we talked all about that. If anybody has any questions about the goal setting, let me know as well. When I was 11, I talked to my future self. I'm getting these messages back now. So strange. It's just so interesting how it works. And when I was saying time isn't linear earlier, when you're in flow and in alignment with your purpose and like your higher self, what you think will take you 10 or 15 years, the universe can like align things for you a lot faster when you're working on like that etheric level and internally than if you're trying to grind out and hustle out things in your external. Okay. All right. So we're going to do a meditation together. It'll be quick because I know we're over, but that's okay. All right. So if anybody needs help with their timeline shifting or integrating these things, processing your emotions, helping your inner child heal, if you need help with your goal setting before the first of the year swings around, right? Because sometimes it's easier to brainstorm with somebody and figure out, you know, what it is that you want in life. If you need help with any of those things, you can go to my profile link, and there's all the ways we can work together one-on-one. If you're on YouTube watching this, all of those things are down in the description down here below. Okay, so we're going to pull a card from my unicorn deck, and we'll see what the universe has for us today. I see you staring at me. My pug is like, are you going to feed us? I understand. You're going to have to wait like 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, fun. Okay. And if anybody wants to take a picture of this, feel free. If you want to take it with your day. Okay, so here we have Cocoon of White Light. And then I'm going to read from the guidebook here, and then we'll do the meditation. Okay. Rest in perfect love, understand oneness. Let me turn this music down here. All right. At its highest 12th dimensional frequency, source love is pure white. It is carried by unicorns. When they connect with you, they bring it down to the vibrational level that you are ready for, while reminding you that your essence is divine love. When you choose this card, your guidance is to ask your unicorn to place you in a bubble of pure white light. White unicorn love is pure and powerful healing force. It also soothes, smooths, and strengthens your aura, ensuring that no lower energies can enter and giving you time and space to rest in peace. Being held in perfect love can affect you at the deepest level, for as you rest in it, your consciousness recognizes that everything is love and that your ego sees situations or relationships through distorted lenses. The cocoon of white source light dissolves any feelings that you may have of separation and difference, enabling you to merge with oneness. At a higher spiritual level, you are holding hands in amity and trust with everyone in the whole world. This is one of the most important lessons of your journey to enlightenment and ascension, so this card invites you to give yourself as long as you need to merge into love. And this is what I was kind of talking about before of like, it's not an individual process, even though it is. Like, it's your own individual ascension journey. But then we're also shifting reality, like all of us. And so you're not alone. There's a lot of us out here. We're just kind of separated from one another sometimes so that we can do these big grid shifts and push consciousness. It's so that we don't kind of like collaborate too much and then kind of like tribe up and then aren't helping like the people wake up on their ascension process journey too, right? And so the good news is in 2023, it's going to be a huge shift. There's a lot of us that are going to have like gifts wake up. There's a lot of people that are waking up right now and are going to wake up in 2023. Like, things are about to start looking a lot differently. We're just seeing like the tail ends of the purging right now. And I'm not saying everything is going to be completely different in 2023 because we still have things to like purge out and shift and heal, but it's going to be a lot different. And because we're feeling this like heavy weight right now, it's one of those final like purging out situations. That's why there's like all this chaotic, wild stuff going on in the world right now, because it's like shining light on things and saying like, hey, all this stuff gotta go. Okay, so it's all this like crumbling energy, and it feels like we're crumbling inside, but we're doing our light work job. of helping the frequencies like raise, because we're doing that internally on our individual journey, which helps with the outer journey because we're showing up differently and breaking generational trauma and healing our children so they don't have to go through the same thing. Like it's all working out, but it's important to find other people who are going through it so you don't feel alone. Okay, so we are going to do the meditation together. So if you want, you can close your eyes. You don't have to, but if you can, that's okay too. And let me get this Palo Santo going. Yes, we are stronger together. That's why I appreciate everybody coming to these lives and these spaces, because it's not just me to you, it's like you to me and us to everyone, and we're all doing this together. Okay. And I want you to remember that anytime you're in like an energy healer's live or somebody, you know, that you look up to or like you enjoy, it's just as much you as it is them. All right. So we're going to take a big breath in through our nose and a grounding breath out through our mouth. And a big breath in through our nose and a breath out through our mouth. Okay. Find time and space to sit still. Close your eyes and breathe comfortably until you relax. So we'll take some nice recharging breaths together. Envisioning our heart space opening up, green emerald energy. Call your unicorn and see it in front of you. So we can all ask for a personal unicorn if you don't have one yet, or if you do as a spirit guide, you can ask them to come forward. See it pouring light from its spiraling horn all around you. This diamond white light energy from the unicorns. Sense it forming a protective bubble of white light. Your unicorn whispers that there is only love. Feel all that is not love ebbing away. Rest in the cocoon as it heals you to your core. And we're also connecting to this beautiful full moon in Gemini energy to help us with releasing these things that are no longer serving us, these behavioral patterns, these triggers, this trauma from the past, shame, guilt, fear, self-limiting beliefs, shedding all of that so we can shift into our newer higher self as we work on our goals towards our smaller goals onto our bigger goals. And our affirmation to encapsulate all this beautiful energy is, I rest in a cocoon of love. I rest in a cocoon of love. I rest in a cocoon of love. And so as we go about our day to day, and as these emotions come up and we're purging through our ascension process journey, we can come back to this moment in time and envision that we're in that cocoon and we're getting ready for our metamorphosis to come out as a beautiful cosmic butterfly as we go through this transformation phase. All right, everybody. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the meditation. And you could just envision that you are coming out of your cocoon at the end of this year to come out as the new you into the new year. And I thank everybody for coming to this space. I appreciate you very much. This will be on YouTube. And so if you want to watch it, it'll be later this evening if you want to come back, or if you weren't here for the whole thing. I appreciate everybody. And like I said, it's just as much you as it is me and the collective, and we're all healing and growing together. So I appreciate you very much. And hopefully this helps with everybody's shift. My unicorn's name is Amelia. Oh, I love that. Mine's name is Peggy. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube so you can stay up to date on more videos. Yeah, Mr. Pugs is right here. He's like, it's time to eat. You want to say hi? Thank you. You're so sweet. Okay. He's like, feed me. Okay. Oh, Chloe. I love that. The name Chloe. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day, and then I will see y'all soon. Bye.